Welcome back, everyone, to Deep Dive. Today, we're taking a look at how social media really shapes our everyday lives. And yeah, it's not just for the, people who are constantly online. This affects all of us. We're diving deep into a really interesting podcast episode that had some real-life examples, and some of the takeaways were pretty surprising.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing how social media has become such a, normal part of our day, right?
Yeah.
It's almost like our connection to everything going on.
Absolutely. And to get started, let's talk about the big names. The ones everyone knows: Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, WhatsApp. They each have their own thing, their own vibe.
It's like a whole digital world, each platform with its own purpose. Facebook, for instance, is like the place where everyone catches up with family, joins groups for their hobbies, even gets involved with what's happening in their town, almost like a digital memory book of our lives.
Yeah, in the podcast, someone was talking about using it for birthdays and family updates. Let's be honest, we've all done that. It's amazing how connected Facebook can make us feel, even when we're far apart.
Exactly. And then you've got Instagram, which is all about the visuals, beautiful photos, eye-catching videos, those glimpses into people's lives that are, perfectly put together. It's like a hub for creativity and constant inspiration.
It's not just about pretty pictures, though. The podcast actually mentions someone finding cooking ideas on Instagram Reels. What's interesting to me is how those short videos are making complex recipes seem easier. It's like having a cooking teacher right on your phone.
That's a great point. Social media is really changing how we learn and share skills in ways we've never seen before. It's not about needing expensive classes anymore. You can learn almost anything online, a lot of times for free.
So we've got Facebook for keeping in touch and Instagram for inspiration and visuals. Let's talk TikTok now. It's the world of short videos, and it's blown up everywhere.
TikTok's popularity has been crazy. It's become the go-to for everything, from funny dances and skits to learning new things and quick how-to videos.
The podcast even mentions someone learning a new language using TikTok, which makes sense, right? Those quick, engaging videos make even tough topics feel manageable and fun to learn.
Exactly. It's like learning has become a game that keeps us wanting more.
Now let's move over to Twitter. It's where people have those quick, real-time conversations and updates, all crammed into those 280 characters.
Twitter is like a global chat that never stops, where people share their thoughts, opinions, reactions to what's happening. And it's not just personal stuff. Twitter is where big news breaks, political discussions happen, even connecting with your favorite celebrities.
I think it's really interesting how just one tweet can start a huge conversation and connect people from all over.
For sure. And then there's WhatsApp, the king of private messages and calls. It's become the standard way to stay in touch with friends and family all over the world.
The host of the podcast mentioned connecting with a cousin in Australia through WhatsApp, which I completely get. It's amazing how technology can make distance almost disappear. And it really shows how social media is changing how we connect with people.
It's revolutionized how we build and maintain relationships. Before, keeping in touch with people far away meant expensive phone calls or letters that took forever to arrive. Now, thanks to social media, we can have instant conversations, share photos, even see each other face-to-face with video calls. It's shrunk the world in ways we couldn't have imagined a few decades ago.
So we have all these platforms connecting us in new ways. But it's not just about staying in touch with people we already know. Social media is also changing how we meet new people and build communities around things we have in common.
That's where groups and online communities are really powerful. You can join a group for your favorite books, connect with other gamers, or even find support groups for specific health issues. It's a way to connect with people who get you from all over the world, no matter where you live.
The podcast highlighted someone who joined a book club on Facebook and ended up connecting with people worldwide. Imagine just a few years back, you'd have to hunt for book clubs at bookstores or community centers. Now you can connect with fellow bookworms from different continents, all because of social media.
It's amazing how it breaks down those barriers and creates this feeling of a global community.
And speaking of breaking down barriers, think about all the learning opportunities social media has opened up. It's like having a huge library of knowledge right in our hands. We have educational YouTube channels, coding tutorials, language learning apps, DIY hacks. There's so much to explore.
It's a really exciting time for learning, and the podcast captures this perfectly. Someone in the episode was learning to code using YouTube, while another was picking up language tips from Instagram. These are skills that used to require expensive classes or special resources, but social media has made them available to anyone with internet.
It's like having a personal tutor available all the time. What's fascinating to me is how social media is shifting who has the power when it comes to education. It's not just about relying on schools or experts anymore. We can learn from each other, share what we know, and build communities of learners around our interests.
That's a key point. It's not just about passively taking in information now. Social media lets us actively participate, work together, and share knowledge in a way that empowers individuals and changes how we learn. And it's not just personal growth either. Social media has also become a crucial tool for entrepreneurs and small businesses trying to reach their target audience and build thriving communities online.
It's been amazing to see how social media has leveled the playing field for small businesses. The podcast actually shared an inspiring story about someone starting a handmade jewelry business entirely on Instagram.
It really shows how social media has made it easier for anyone to become an entrepreneur. In the past, starting a business meant getting a lot of money, renting a space, and spending a ton on advertising. Now, with platforms like Instagram and Facebook, you can reach people all over the world without spending a fortune. It's opened up so many possibilities for creative people and small business owners who might not have had the same chances before.
It's given them a voice, a platform to connect with customers in a genuine way.
And let's not forget how powerful social media can be for raising awareness about important causes, getting people to act, even making positive changes in the world.
We've seen how it can be used to organize protests, support social justice movements, and make sure the voices of marginalized communities are heard.
Exactly. The podcast uses a powerful example of this. During a natural disaster, there was a huge outpouring of support on Instagram, with people organizing donations, sharing information about relief efforts, and even connecting directly with those affected by the crisis. It shows that even though social media has its downsides, it can be a force for good, bringing people together in times of need and encouraging communities to take action.
But of course, it's not all perfect. Social media has its dark side, and we can't pretend those don't exist. While it's incredible to see how it's changed how we live, learn, and connect, we need to acknowledge the potential problems too.
You're absolutely right. Social media, like anything powerful, has its challenges. We need to understand both the good and the bad of this digital world.
Exactly. So while it's fascinating to see how social media has revolutionized how we live, learn, and connect, we need to be mindful of the possible negative effects.
Absolutely. And that's what we'll explore next. We'll dig into the challenges of social media addiction, the impact on mental health, the spread of misinformation, and the big concerns around data privacy and security.
It's easy to get caught up in all the cool stuff social media can do, but we can't ignore the downsides, right? One of the biggest worries that keeps coming up is the potential for addiction.
Oh yeah, it's a real problem.
Mm-hmm.
The way these platforms are designed, the algorithms they use, it's all meant to keep us hooked, and it works really well. We scroll and scroll, watch videos, get into conversations, and suddenly hours have gone by.
The podcast used this example that we've probably all experienced of like opening Instagram to just check one thing and then an hour later it happens. But it really shows how easily social media can take over our time without us noticing.
And over time, that constant checking can turn into a real dependency. People feel like they have to check their feeds all the time, even during dinner, at work, or late at night when they should be sleeping. It becomes this urge that's hard to resist.
It's almost like this digital itch you have to scratch, and it starts to affect other parts of our lives, you know?
Right.
Like spending time with family, getting work done, even just sleeping enough.
Exactly. And it's not just about lost time either. Studies show that using social media too much can mess with your sleep, making you tired, unable to focus, and even causing long-term health issues.
It's a vicious cycle, isn't it? You stay up late scrolling, then you're exhausted the next day. So you turn to social media for a quick pick-me-up, and it just keeps going.
Exactly. And beyond the time management stuff, there are also some serious psychological effects to think about. When we're constantly seeing pictures and updates about everyone else's lives, it's easy to start comparing ourselves.
Yeah, I think we've all felt that. You're looking through your feed, and it seems like everyone else is living this perfect life, going on amazing trips, accomplishing all these things. It can make you feel like you're not good enough, or like you're not doing enough with your own life.
It's human nature to compare ourselves to others, but social media really ramps this up in an unhealthy way. We're always seeing these polished versions of reality, which can set up unrealistic expectations and lead to feeling envious, doubting yourself, even depressed.
And this can be especially tough for young people. Those who are still figuring out who they are, they're more sensitive to peer pressure and comparing themselves to others.
Right. The podcast actually brought up a study that found a link between social media and body image problems, especially in teenagers and young adults. When young people constantly see these perfect, idealized images of beauty, it can distort how they see themselves and make them feel inadequate.
It's so important to remember that what we see online is often just the best parts, not real life. Everyone has struggles and insecurities, even if they don't show it.
Absolutely. And besides comparing ourselves, there's also the constant flood of notifications and the fear of missing out. FOMO, as people call it. We feel this pressure to always be connected, to know about every trend, every conversation, everything happening online.
It's like this feeling you need to be in the know all the time, and if you miss something, you're somehow behind. It can be really tiring and make you anxious.
It can. And it often takes away from just enjoying the moment. You're so focused on what's happening online that you miss what's happening right in front of you.
Let's shift gears a little and talk about the spread of misinformation. Social media is amazing for sharing information quickly, but it's also become a breeding ground for fake news, rumors, and conspiracy theories.
The way social media works, how easy it is to share things and reach tons of people instantly, makes it really vulnerable to spreading misinformation. And because anyone can post anything without anyone checking, it's hard to know what's true and what's not.
The podcast gave a scary example of this happening during a crisis. Fake news about health risks and wild theories were spreading everywhere, causing panic and confusion.
It's a reminder that we have to be careful about the information we consume online, especially from social media. We can't just believe everything we see. We need to check sources, think about how believable the information is, and be wary of anything that's overly emotional and trying to sway our opinions.
It's like we need a built-in BS detector for the internet.
You got it. And on a larger scale, misinformation can really impact society, causing division, distrust, and even violence.
It's a complicated problem with no easy answers, but it's definitely something we need to be aware of and try to fight against. Now let's talk about another major concern: data privacy and security. Social media platforms collect so much data about us, what we like, what we're interested in, where we are, even our private conversations.
The amount of data they gather is mind-blowing, and it's often used in ways we don't even know about. It raises some serious questions about who has access to this information, what they're doing with it, and whether our privacy is truly protected.
The podcast pointed out that when we sign up for social media, we often hand over tons of personal information. Our names, emails, phone numbers, birthdays, sometimes even our home addresses. It can feel pretty intrusive knowing all that's being collected and stored somewhere.
I get that. And if we're not careful about our privacy settings, all that information could be seen by strangers or even people with bad intentions.
And it's not just about individual privacy either. We've seen cases where huge data breaches involving social media companies have exposed the personal information of millions of users.
These breaches really show how vulnerable our data is online. It reminds us that we have to protect our online identities and be careful about what we share.
It can all feel a little overwhelming. On one hand, we have these incredible platforms that connect us, inform us, entertain us. But on the other hand, there are serious concerns about addiction, mental health, misinformation, and data privacy.
It's a tricky landscape to navigate. It's easy to feel lost in this digital world. The key, I think, is finding a balance. We need to figure out how to use the power of social media for good while minimizing the potential harm.
So how do we find that sweet spot? How do we enjoy social media without falling into its traps? That's what we'll explore next as we look at some practical tips for finding balance in the digital age. So we've covered the good, the bad, and the kind of scary stuff when it comes to social media. The question is, how do we actually have a good relationship with these platforms?
Yeah, that's the big one, right? The good news is it's definitely doable. It's about us taking charge and making choices that work for us, for our well-being and what we believe in.
Right, because let's be honest, just deleting everything isn't going to happen for most people. Where do we even start? What are some actual steps we can take?
One of the best things, and this might sound too simple, is setting boundaries. Like, seriously think about it. How much time do you really want to spend on social media each day?
That's a good place to start. It's way too easy to just keep scrolling and lose track of time. Having a limit in mind can help us be more aware.
For sure. And a lot of apps actually have tools for this. You can set daily time limits or even get reminders to take a break. It's like having a little digital buddy looking out for you.
I like that. It's like giving ourselves permission to step away without feeling bad about it. Speaking of stepping away, what about making certain places or times social media-free zones?
That's a great idea. Maybe it's your bedroom, the dinner table, or even just an hour before bed. Having these spaces where you disconnect helps you be more present in your actual life.
It's about taking back those moments and letting our brains relax from all the online stimulation. In the podcast, the host talked about how taking a break from social media helped them sleep better and concentrate more during the day.
Yeah, it's surprising how even small changes can make a difference in how we feel. And it's not just about when we use social media, but what we're looking at too. We have way more control over that than we think.
It's like we can create our own newsfeed. Instead of just scrolling through whatever pops up, we can choose to follow accounts that inspire us, teach us things, make us feel good.
Exactly. Fill your feed with things that match your interests, your values, your goals. If an account consistently makes you feel bad or brings up negative stuff, just unfollow it. It's totally fine.
The podcast guest mentioned that they started following more educational accounts, like language tips or science explainers. They turned their scrolling time into learning something new.
That's such a cool way to look at it. Social media doesn't have to be a waste of time. It can be a way to grow and learn.
And sometimes, honestly, the best thing is to just take a break completely. A few hours, a day, even a whole week. Disconnecting gives us a chance to recharge and reconnect with ourselves.
It's like hitting the reset button on our digital lives. We get to step away from all the noise and rediscover what really matters to us, what makes us happy.
It's so important to remember that social media is just one part of life. It shouldn't take over everything. We need to make time for the things that feed our souls, being in nature, actually hanging out with people, doing hobbies, or just being present in the moment.
And if you're finding it tough to manage your social media use, or if it's starting to affect your mental health, don't be afraid to ask for help. Talk to someone you trust, a friend, family member, or even a therapist or counselor.
It's strong to reach out for help. And remember, you're not the only one going through this. A lot of people struggle with finding balance in the digital world.
In the end, it's about realizing that we have the power to decide how our online experience goes. We choose how we use social media, what we see, how much time we spend on it.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I'll leave you with this. What's one small change you can make to your social media habits today to make it a more positive experience for yourself?
It could be setting a time limit, unfollowing an account that brings you down, or just being more mindful of what you're actually looking at.
The takeaway here is you are in control of your digital life. Make smart choices, put your well-being first, and remember to step away and reconnect with the offline world.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into how social media influences our daily lives. We hope you learned some valuable stuff and feel ready to build a healthier, more balanced relationship with the digital world.
Until next time, stay curious, stay mindful, and stay connected in a way that truly benefits you. Welcome back, everyone. We've got another deep dive ready for you. We've been sent an episode of the English Globe podcast all about New Year's Eve traditions.
Yeah.
And, on the surface, it seems like such a simple celebration, but I have a feeling there's way more to it than meets the eye.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
You're going to be surprised by just how much history and cultural influence is packed into those New Year's Eve traditions we all know and love.
Yeah, right off the bat, I was surprised to learn about the Babylonians.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they were one of the earliest civilizations to celebrate the new year.
Right.
But they didn't do it in December.
No.
They celebrated it in March.
Makes sense when you think about it, though, right?
Yeah, it does, actually.
For the Babylonians, the new year was all about the spring equinox.
Oh,
Okay,
well,
time for rebirth and renewal.
yeah, that makes sense.
Perfect for a fresh start.
And their festival, Akitu,
Oh, yeah.
lasted a full 12 days.
Can you imagine?
I can only imagine. That must have been a wild party.
Must have been something else.
But when did we switch over to January 1st?
That's a great question.
Yeah, was that a gradual change, or somebody just said, we're doing it this way now?
Well, let's just say we have Julius Caesar to thank for that.
Oh, really?
Yep. Back in 46 BC, he introduced the Julian calendar,
Okay.
which, by the way, was based on the solar year, much more accurate.
Interesting.
And he decided January 1st would be the official start of the new year.
Oh, so that was just his call.
Pretty much.
Interesting. But why January, though? Did that month mean something special to the Romans?
You know, it actually did. It's all because of the Roman god, Janus. Exactly. January was named after him. He was the god of beginnings, transitions, doorways, all that good stuff.
Oh, so they were trying to like link the new year with the idea of new beginnings.
Exactly. They wanted to make that connection super clear.
And Janus had two faces, right?
Yep, one looking back at the past and one looking ahead to the future.
Wow, that imagery is so powerful.
It really is.
And it still resonates with us today.
You're right. It's still how we experience New Year's Eve, isn't it?
Yeah, totally. We reflect on the past year and get excited for what's coming next.
It's like those ancient Roman ideas are woven into how we think about the new year.
Right, even though it's been, what, like 2,000 years?
Yeah, crazy, right?
And it's amazing to think those ancient practices are still shaping our world today.
Oh, absolutely. Just like the Romans made sacrifices and exchanged gifts for good luck in the coming year, we still do similar things, don't we?
We do, giving gifts, making resolutions, even just getting together with the people we care about.
Exactly. It's all about starting the year off on a positive note.
It is. And speaking of celebrations, one of the things that really stood out in the English Globe episode was just the huge variety of New Year's Eve traditions around the world.
Oh, yeah. It's incredible, isn't it?
Yeah. It's amazing how every culture kind of puts their own spin on this thing we all do.
It really highlights the richness of human experience, doesn't it?
Yeah, for sure. So what were some of the most interesting traditions you came across?
Well, one that always gets me is Spain's tradition of eating 12 grapes at midnight.
Oh, yeah. Las uvas de la suerte.
You got it. The grapes of luck.
One for each stroke of the clock.
That's right.
It sounds kind of crazy.
Oh, it is.
But also fun.
I mean, who doesn't love a little chaos to ring in the new year?
True, true. But it also shows how much we all want good luck in the year ahead.
Totally. It's universal.
And then you've got traditions like Joya no Cane in Japan.
Ah, yes.
Very different vibe.
Much more contemplative. Right?
Yeah, very peaceful.
Instead of wild parties, a lot of Japanese people go to temples and listen to the 108 bells ring at midnight.
108 bells. That's super specific.
It is.
What's the deal with that number?
Well, in Buddhism, they believe we humans have 108 worldly desires or negative emotions. And those are what cause suffering. You see, each bell strike is supposed to cleanse one of those defilements.
Oh, well.
So people can start the new year feeling purified and spiritually renewed.
So different from the big firework displays we often see.
Quite a contrast.
But it just goes to show, right?
What's that?
There are so many ways to approach the new year.
Absolutely. Some cultures focus on cleansing and reflecting. Others go all out with celebrations.
Yeah. But one thing really struck me.
Yeah.
It seems like no matter how different the traditions are, they're all reaching for the same thing.
Like what?
A fresh start, a sense of hope, and a connection to something bigger than ourselves.
You hit the nail on the head. It's that universal human desire, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so. And even the fun traditions like in Denmark where they jump off chairs at midnight.
Oh, I love that one.
To leap into the new year.
Leaving all the bad luck behind.
Exactly. It's just so, I don't know.
Visual.
Yeah, and fun.
That's a great way to picture that idea of starting fresh.
It really makes you wonder, why is this one point in time so important to us?
That's a great question.
Is it just about the calendar? Or is there something deeper going on?
Well, I think it goes way deeper than just the calendar.
Sure.
You know, New Year's Eve, with all its traditions, it's like a chance to step outside of our normal routines, to connect with some pretty deep human needs and desires.
Yeah, so it's not just about the parties and the countdown.
Right.
There's something more going on.
It's like a psychological and emotional thing, you know?
Definitely. Okay, so like fireworks.
Fireworks are a great example.
They're so cool to watch.
Oh, they're spectacular.
But they're more than just a show, right?
Right. There's something almost primal about how much we love fire and explosions.
It's true.
I think on some level, it might be tapping into this ancient human need to get rid of the old stuff and make way for new things.
Oh, interesting. It's kind of like a big cleansing ritual.
Exactly. Like we're purging all the negativity from the past year.
Wow. Yeah, and it's something everyone experiences together.
You're right. It's that collective awe. That shared experience of watching those explosions light up the sky.
Yeah. Yeah, brings people together.
Yeah, totally. It reinforces the idea that we're all starting this new year together.
And then you've got New Year's resolutions.
Ah, yes.
Resolutions.
Everyone jokes about them.
They can be a bit cliche, can't they?
Yeah, but they also show how much people want to improve themselves.
It's true. It's that urge to take control of our future.
Yeah.
And strive for personal growth.
Right, even if we don't always stick to them perfectly.
Oh, let's be honest, who actually does?
Right. But it's still important to try.
Absolutely. Making those resolutions shows we're at least willing to try to be better.
It's a time to think about who we are and where we want to go.
Exactly. Built-in self-reflection time.
Yeah. And then, of course, you've got the whole thing about gathering with loved ones on New Year's Eve.
Oh, that's crucial.
Yeah. It seems like no matter what culture you look at,
Doesn't matter where you go.
that connection is central to the celebration.
You're absolutely right. That sense of community is so important.
Yeah. So whether it's a huge family party or just hanging out with a few close friends.
We're reaffirming those bonds, right?
Exactly.
And finding comfort in the people who mean the most to us.
It's like we're drawing strength from those relationships as we head into the new year.
Right, because who knows what's going to happen.
It's unknown territory.
Exactly. We need that support.
We do.
So it's not just about celebrating with people we love, is it?
No, it's not.
It's also about showing them we appreciate them.
Absolutely. New Year's Eve gives us a chance to acknowledge the people who make our lives better
Right.
and to tell them how much we care.
Yeah, for sure. So as we're looking at all these traditions and what they really mean,
Yeah.
what do you think are the most important takeaways for our listeners?
That's a good question.
What should they be thinking about as they get ready for New Year's Eve?
Well, I think the biggest thing to remember is that New Year's Eve, it's not just about the date on the calendar. It's more like a powerful ritual,
Okay.
a way of connecting with this shared human need for renewal, hope, and connection.
Yeah, like a global reset button almost.
Exactly. A chance to reflect, celebrate, and set some intentions for the future.
And as you're celebrating this year, I think it's worth really thinking about the traditions you follow.
Oh, I agree.
What do they actually mean to you? How do they connect you to your family or your culture or even just to your own personal memories?
That's such a good point.
Yep.
It's easy to just go through the motions,
Yeah, totally.
without really stopping to ask why we do the things we do.
Yeah, and as we've seen, there's a lot of meaning there just waiting to be explored.
Absolutely. And hey, don't be afraid to come up with your own traditions, too.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point.
New Year's Eve is a blank slate,
It is.
It's a chance to express yourself and set intentions in a way that feels right for you.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into New Year's Eve traditions, I want to leave you with a question to think about as you head into the new year.
Okay, I like it.
What new beginnings do you hope to create? What habits do you want to focus on? And who do you want to have by your side as you start this new journey?
Those are some really great questions to ponder. And remember, New Year's Eve, it reminds us that we all have the power to make a fresh start, to set goals and create a future full of hope and possibility.
Happy New Year to all our listeners. We'll see you in the next deep dive. Until then, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep celebrating everything that makes life meaningful.